Okay, good evening, everyone. I apologize for my part in the late start. This is the November 2022 meeting of the Pittsburgh LGBTQIA Plus Commission. And our first order of business is attendance. Billy?
Sure. So we have got a message on my screen, then I'll click off. Okay, so we have 13 commissioners present. So we do have quorum. Kathy Boyle is here, Denise DeSimone, Jam Hammond, Billy Heilman, Sue Kerr, Maria Montano, Lenny Orbovich, Richard Parsakian, Shante Porter, Christopher Robinson, Marcus Robinson, Sarah Rosso, and Guillermo Velasquez. And I know that Derek has indicated he'll be here, so I'll keep an eye out for him and correct the attendance should he arrive.
Thank you, Billy. So I will be facilitating tonight, and next order is the reading and approval of minutes. Has everyone read the minutes? We're assuming that you have any. We need a motion to approve them.
Yeah, motion to approve the October minutes.
Second.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay, meeting minutes for October have been approved. I'm gonna share my screen to pull the agenda up. Okay. All right. Starting with reports of officers, boards, and standing committees. And several of these are mine, so I'll go through them. The Pirates quarterly meeting. We have not yet been able to set a meeting with the Pirates. Hopefully that will be resolved soon. I think a lot of people took vacation when the season ended, but I do want to take a moment to comment that during the recent issue with the advertisements on the radio stations, the anti-trans ads that were running on 8 local stations, I reached out to the Pirates and asked them to contact their broadcast partners, and their vice president for broadcasting did that and sent a message and was able to negotiate with KDKA to have the ads removed. So I think that that's a sign that our relationship with them is constructive and useful, and that they were willing to, do the right thing for us. So no meeting, but I think we have that as some progress. It also happened with the Penguins. They did the same thing with their broadcast partner. So does anyone have questions about that? I'll just keep trying to get some dates. Okay.
You said who, you indicated who on the, not the actual person, but their role, who contacted their broadcast partners?
The Pirates, it was the vice president of broadcasting.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
And with the Penguins, it was the president of the Penguins.
Wow. Thank you.
The next issue is filling the vacant LGBTQ liaison in the Pittsburgh Police Department. This was a position that was filled most recently by Commander Eric Holmes. Commander Holmes left in April to go to the University of Duquesne Police Department. So the position has been vacant since then. It's not a full-time position. It's just a task that somebody in the command staff fills. And we had an incident happen in 24 hours that has brought to light why this is such an important role to be filled. I, with the commission's authority, contact acting chief Thomas Stangrecki and asked him about it, and I have not had a response yet. So I don't know if there's at this point, we're waiting for a response from the police department about their plans to address that role. Any comment or feedback? Do you know what happened last night?
Did you talk to, I guess in terms of the update from last night, the SVU folks who got into contact with PPS in the schools to have a further conversation on the matter. And it's, from my understanding, there should be or could be possibly some good news regarding the resolution of the missing person that could be coming momentarily. We're just waiting for final confirmation before making that fully public.
I don't know what happened, Sue.
There was a missing minor, and in the statement, the press release, the missing person information that went out, they were identified as the gender they were assigned at birth and their name they were assigned at birth. And then a school teacher from, I forget which school, contacted the Devin Brown, who contacted me to say that in school, the child had actually identified as trans and used a different name, and did not necessarily out themselves to their parent. So that seemed like some vital information. And so last night we were able to get a hold of, I was talking with the teachers about what's the best thing to do. And we thought that Maria would be the best place to start because it's such a complicated and delicate situation. I also contacted Shantae, who was doing some behind the scenes conversations, because well, I don't have to explain to all of you. You all know how nuanced that can be. So, and then Maria gave me some information on what we could do in the future, whom to contact. And I did have a conversation with the Kara Cruz, I think it is, the spokesperson for the police. But I have to be honest with you, I wasn't really convinced that Kara was on top of LGBTQ nuances. So I had a side conversation with Marcus and Sarah right before this meeting about some concerns we have, which, we'll need to flesh out. Not anything overtly anti-trans or anti-LGBT, but just not really understanding, I think, the concerns that we had as a community about the safety and welfare of this child.
I work very closely with Kara, so if there are concerns, I'm happy to have a direct personal conversation with her. Thank you, Yolanda. So if there are specifics that you would like for me to discuss or work on some cultural competency on, I'm happy to work with the PIOs in regards to that.
Well, Maria, how about if I loop you into the thread with Marcus and Sarah, and we can discuss that in more detail. The most important thing is making sure that the child is safe. And once we have confirmation of that, that will be take care of the urgency of the situation.
She has her hand up, just so you know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see. Go ahead, whoever that is. Shantae?
Yes, excuse me if I start coughing. I'm feeling a little under the weather. I have a question of concern. So the first question is, do this individual's family know of their know how they identify within school? And if they don't, is this going to be a situation, understanding that right now the priority is the safety and well-being of the child, but what precautions will we be able to put in to make sure that when the child is safely home, the child will remain safe?
My understanding from the teacher who taught the child, was a music teacher, is that the child specifically said that they wanted to go by a certain name and certain pronouns in school, and they were fine with their classmates hearing that information, but they absolutely did not want their parents to that information to be used in front of their parents. Now, that was last school year. So we don't know what's going on this school year, but we asked that teacher to try to, they're at a different school now. So to find out, maybe what there was information to get out.
I know a lot of people in Homewood, and I know some of Homewood's leaders. Actually, one of them sits on my board for the Love Diamond Project. And the only thing, of course, the child's safety and well-being and safe return is definitely priority. I guess what I'm saying is Homewood, I don't know who's been through Homewood. It's not a big neighborhood, but it's not small. It's definitely very urban and pretty violent. I used to live in this neighborhood, and basically the way things are going now, I just caution. If there's someone you can point me to communicate with, I would love that, because I would hate to reach out to some of my resource and out this child unintentionally, and then it spreads through the neighborhood.
I think if Maria can confirm for us, which it sounds like she will, that the child is safe, then that we might have a slightly different conversation about what to do. And that was a balance of knowing this information about the child, and literally, the people could be seeing this child and not realize that that's who's missing. And they're very young. We're not talking about a 17 or 18-year-old. So and balancing that against the possibly outing them. I don't know the best practices there. That's actually what we were going to talk about, finding out. And this, I think, again, is going back to the issue of a liaison, is having an LGBTQ liaison, specifically who is a police officer who has been trained in these topics. And it applies to adults as well. I've had numerous incidents over the year where I've received missing persons reports and discovered that the person was LGBTQ, and then the families were very opposed to disclosing that information. And it's very dicey and delicate.
Sue,
But I think, go ahead.
was the child outed to the family?
I don't know. When I spoke to Kara, she said that the investigating officer was deciding what to do with the information, and that they didn't know how to get a photo of the child. And I suggested the school that maybe their friends might have some selfies or something like that, but I don't know what happened at that point. She said she would follow up with me, but I think Maria probably will get more prompt information. And
Okay, but that's how the school got involved. I mean, other than the fact that it's one of their kids.
well, no, the teacher was from the elementary school from last year and saw the missing persons report and said, I have this information that could be pertinent. Because
Okay.
the reality
because-
is there's a possibility this child disappeared. It had to do because of, some sort of conflict with their identity. So we just don't know.
See, so in that case, I mean, at least, so the school didn't make the report, but our policy is to maintain the child's confidentiality, including parents. So if the police put out the report with the child's birth name and assigned sex, that's probably accurate, and what they should have done in the case that the family doesn't know. So I guess I'm confused what the issue is here.
That is what they did, Lenny.
Yeah.
They followed up, the detectives followed up with the school to have further conversations after Sue had that information, to just try to see if they can get some more information about their identity, so that way if there was a need to release that publicly, there would be some background there and understanding there what it was. But at this point, that information, I do believe, has not gone further than just back to the school.
Okay.
And
Yeah, because
conjecture to
per our policy, it shouldn't even be shared with the police.
We shared it with the police. The information came to us and we shared it with the police.
Yeah, it was
The-
shared with me personally, not, I'm the one that made the decision to pass it on to the, I looked at this as just information. I mean, when a person is missing, they say, if you have any information, you need to call the investigating officer or whatever the number is. So, but Lenny, I did say to Devin that I thought that that's a conversation to have with the GSA advisors and other advisors about what's the appropriate thing to do, because this teacher didn't know and Devin didn't know either. And I didn't know. So I just went to the person I thought was most likely to know what to do.
I mean, our policy is pretty clear, but like that should have,
And to this-
if that's confidential within the school, then it should have remained confidential.
And to the credit of the school, they did not confirm nor deny any of the information provided to them. So they did
Exactly what
withhold
they should have
that confidential, the information, sorry, my brain just stopped working. They kept the confidentiality of any of that information and did not do that. And to that end, the detectives and the PIOs did not issue a public broadcast that would have outed the individual in question.
Yeah, I mean, the protection, the physical safety of our trans and non-binary students is at the very center of that policy, and confidentiality is key to it. So, all right, yeah, I'm glad to hear that the school did what they were supposed to. Good.
And
Thanks.
so as soon as I get confirmation, I'll follow up with you, Sue, on that. We're just waiting some further confirmations, but as soon as I get word on that, I'll let you know. And for everyone here, in case if there is a critical emergency in the community and you need to reach somebody from the city urgently, my cell phone, I'll read it out loud into the record here for everyone. My city cell phone, which is online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, specifically for reasons like this, is 412-500-6669. So that will always ring through to me. So that's the one that's always on. My personal cell isn't always on, and I don't always check my social media messages. Sue, I followed up with you as soon as I got online after I had a different board of directors event last night. So as soon as I finished that is when I saw the messages and responded back to you. But in the case of an urgent need, that really is the best way to reach me in order to have further conversation with those who might need it in the city. So,
well, I feel relief that hopefully we're anticipating a report that the child is safe. That's a comfort. So we, have this just as an example of why I personally think having the liaison role filled with an officer is very important. And then the other issue that's coming out of this is, this happens a lot. People are reported missing and the information is not accurate. And that's not necessarily our responsibility to address that, but maybe a conversation about that is warranted for the people as a public safety issue. And I don't want to necessarily get into that right now because we have a lot to cover, but we can add it to the agenda for next month and maybe explore it in a little more detail. Okay.
Please.
The meeting with Mayor Gainey, Marcus.
Yeah, so I know Maria, sorry.
I'm sorry, Marcus. Shantae, your hand's still up. I don't
Oh.
know if you have another comment, but you could either put it.
I'm sorry, I meant to take it down.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mark.
No worries. So in terms of this, Maria, I saw your email that went through earlier. I think that I was reading through and just thinking about it. I know there's been some, difficulties getting it scheduled and whatnot. I think just in terms of our perspective, the hard part is that we had that initial meeting with Mayor Gainey, and then it was hard to get the follow-up that, was clearly outlined from that meeting. So I think that's, in my perspective of understanding how this has played out. I think it will be helpful. I don't know if you can talk through a little bit about the other pieces of the email about what that previous meeting we were trying to have in August about for that staff member who will be sharing work with the Gender Equity Committee. But in terms of like our last discussion with Philip, the outcome was that, you know, in order to have a larger group with the mayor, that meeting wouldn't be able to happen until January.
So in terms of the broader conversation, right? So, you know, obviously the mayor's calendar shifts dramatically from when he first comes into office to where it is now, right? So given all the things that are going on in the city. So one of the things that we do as an order of process is set up pre-meetings with the executive level staff members and the appropriate staff members, most notably the chief of staff, deputy chief of staff. In this case, it also would have included myself in that meeting to meet with the leadership of the commission. This is a model we've used for all of our commissions and some of our task forces as well, in order to come together to figure out what the agenda for the meeting with the mayor is. And work together to find a timeline that works, to make sure that we're scheduling the appropriate amount of time to give the community the time it deserves in terms of having a conversation with the mayor. Because you know, it's just the way that we've sort of modeled these things to make sure that we're all working from a shared purpose and understanding, and hopefully have a shared understanding of what the outcomes and goals of any meeting that we have is, so that we're working towards that together. So that was one of the things that we had hoped to accomplish with some of these initial pre-meetings ahead of getting a meeting set up with the mayor for the broader commission. And part of that conversation was to have a conversation around our vision for staffing. And our vision of really trying to unisolate and unsilo the work of city government, and where it makes sense, where intersectionality makes sense, to bring folks together. And we saw that this was actually a really good time to sort of look at that from the perspective of the work that the Gender Equity Commission is doing, as well as the work that our commission is doing, to have one dedicated staff person, which would have been two part-time staff people working to sort of be a bridge at times, but also to be able to drive that work forward. So we had hoped to have that conversation with you all before we had to move forward through the formalized budget process and the legislated timeframe for those budget processes. In order to do that, unfortunately, we were unable to have that meeting with you all in advance of the scheduled budget process throughout the city of Pittsburgh. So while there was a budgeted position in the 2022 city budget that has still remained unfilled, that money, as outlined in my message to you all earlier, it remains untouched and goes unused. And just like any other position in the city of Pittsburgh that's budgeted, if that money is unused, then in the next budget year, that money rolls over to the reserve fund, which is like the city's rainy day fund. So that money doesn't move. As a matter of you know, there was questions raised in terms of fiduciary responsibility or financial responsibility. So I just want to make clear there that those funds set aside for a staff position can only be used for a staff position. They can't be drawn down or moved to do other things with. So that line item in the budget was specifically for personnel. The only way that money could be moved is if we did a revenue neutral swap to move it to another personnel decision, which we would have done had we had the conversation to merge these two positions earlier. We would have moved on that sooner, but we were unable to have that conversation, so it waited until the 2023 budget year to do so. As it stands, if we were to do anything other than that, it would require public legislation and process in order for us to touch or move that money outside of that one specific use case. And to that end, obviously, there's been no legislation moving that money or changing the usage of that money. So we don't believe we will be utilizing those funds for the remainder of the 2022 budget. So those funds would roll over into the reserve fund for next year. So you did see, and again, you know, the formal budget process is now currently with City Council. We have finalized our budget after several opportunities for community engagement and conversation, and submitted that through the formal budget address this Monday. And you did notice that there is no line item for a staff position for this commission or the Gender Equity Commission, but that has been moved into one consolidated position that we're calling the IDEA Manager. And it's really focusing in on intersectionality, diversity, equity, and the work around those. And part of that work will be staffing this commission.
I have a few questions, but I want to make sure everybody else who might have some questions has a chance to ask them.
So Maria, so that staff would be a shared person between the Gender Equity and our commission?
That is correct.
Okay.
Are you saying our or art?
Our.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
The,
The other,
the LGBTQIA plus commission and the Gender Equity Commission, not the Art Commission. Those are different, completely different commissions. Yes.
so with this, but this description of an idea manager, you know, understanding the world of intersectionality, is this person going to have tasks beyond these two commissions? Because that sounds like it could be broader than that it's not limited to two commissions. And I think we're all a little concerned about not having any funds or any support for 21 or 22. And so I'm worried about this title that it seems like it's not dedicated to us, but if it is,
One of their primary responsibilities will be serving this commission.
what
How many-
percentage of their responsibilities is that?
I'm not certain on what percentage of that responsibilities are, but their two primary responsibilities are to staff the Gender Equity Commission and the LGBTQIA plus Commission. What other work comes outside of that, I'm not entirely clear on what those percentages and the breakdowns are, as those job descriptions are still undergoing, but broadly speaking, that's going to be the major areas of focus for their work.
When we were contacted about, just for transparency, the deputy chief of staff wanted to meet with each co-chair individually. And we said, that's not how we operate, that we would need to meet collectively. And unfortunately, we just received a date, like 1 or 2 dates that were like a day or two later. And it wasn't a very smooth process. But I want to point out that we were never told any of this. I mean, Marcus and Sarah maybe could back me up on this or clarify, but we were told that that was going to be a planning meeting to talk about the meeting with the mayor, but there was no mention of that we would weigh in on staffing or anything like that. And we were not, in fact, I believe last spring when we asked the mayor's office, Maria, through you, about the staffing, we were told that there was no funding for staffing. And then Bruce Krause found out through the city clerk that there was. So
we were confused about the nature of the budget inquiry that you were making. So when you said we had this money in the budget, we were looking at the wrong section of the budget to find that. That is when we discovered that this money in the budget was specifically set aside for personnel as a part-time staff person. So our initial look at the budget was we were just looking in the wrong portion of the budget. So that's where that misunderstanding took place.
But why didn't anyone tell us that there was clarification? I mean, we just found out on our own through a sidebar conversation. That makes me uneasy.
I believe in previous meetings, and I would have to go back and look at the budget, that we did have a conversation around the fact that this budgeted item was specifically for a part-time staff person once we did discover that.
Okay. Does anyone else remember these conversations? And I don't want to get into it a back and forth of like negatively. I just don't honestly remember having that conversation. And I did miss a meeting. So
I remember this being talked about, that the budget would be for a staff person and not a budget for us to use discretionary funds.
And then I was just gonna add, I think the thing that I got confused and still confused. So that meeting that, Philip had initiated and tried to get time, it was kind of, I know that, had mentioned that talk about vision of staffing and things like that. But, part of the larger issues that we wanted to have set up this meeting with Mayor Gainey. But additionally, like when Philip had responded, I wasn't sure, he said he would circle back with time. So I think it just got kind of, the wires got crossed, because it was, if that was the purpose of that meeting, then, and it was to decide that idea manager and the position for that role, I think the way the email came across was not as time urgent from my understanding. So I think that's where I'm just kind of confused how we, how it evolved from there.
Yeah, and I think that the last email that I saw was from you, Marcus, reaching out, asking for the date of August 9th for the co-chairs of Sarah and Sue to see if they could do any time in that 30-minute window between 3 and 4 o'clock p.m. On that date. And we never got any further correspondence from the other co-chairs of whether or not that time would work. So I think at that point in time, the date passed in terms of when that availability existed for the executive staff, and delayed further outreach around the issue.
But it seems like we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about meeting with the mayor's staff to discuss talking about staffing. But what we had requested last December, before you were on board, Maria, I know that, was for the mayor to meet with the entire commission. So that would not, we certainly could talk about staffing.
This would have been part of that conversation in that initial meeting that we would have had. We would have had this conversation about our vision for the staffing, as well as putting together a proposed agenda for a meeting with the mayor, where we could have had a broader conversation with the full commission about the mayor, and had these conversations. So that's that. So I guess it's were we as clear as like what that meetings were entailed? Probably could have been clearer, and I will say that we could have been clearer on that. But we've always had the intention of meeting with the commission fully and looking to do so. But really, for us, it's a making sure that we've got a clear, organized agenda with dedicated outcomes for the meeting, so that we were working towards a shared purpose together. And that would have been part of the meeting, along with the talking about our vision for staffing and staffing the commission moving forward.
I think it's a little presumptuous for the mayor to expect us to meet individually with the deputy chief of staff, then have a meeting with the chief of staff, and then meet with the mayor, and then eventually have, that's a lot of work for, the co-chairs. And it wasn't explained to us. And it adds to my sense of frustration that the mayor isn't committed to what we're doing here, because
the mayor is
these are
fully
barriers
to the work of this commission. He is deeply committed to uplifting and supporting LGBTQ people. Next, we are getting ready to meet with LGBTQI business leaders in their Chamber of Commerce to put together a robust plan to make sure that we have economic vitality for them. We've been a fierce champion for LGBTQIA rights.
The mayor,
to
the
say that
mayor's
he's
gonna
not
meet
committed to
with-
this work is just.
the mayor's going to meet with someone who supported overturning the 2020 election professionally before meeting with his own commission. That's
Who are you
disturbing.
referring to, Sue?
The president of the board, the chair of the board of the Chamber of Commerce, was
The LGBTQIA commerce, is
what's
that
his
who
name?
you're referring to?
Ron something. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe he's not there anymore, but he was part of challenging the 2020 election, and then challenging.
Are you
the
talking
recent
about
primary.
the Three Rivers Business Alliance, which is the
Yes.
LGBTQIA Chamber of Commerce for the city of Pittsburgh?
Yes, I'll look up his name right now.
And again, we want to meet with you. We're fully committed to meeting with you. We had we've initiated several attempts, and Marcus, I appreciate you and you're following back up with us again this fall around that, and we're working to do that. We're working to say if we can't do it before the end of the year, we're trying to make good on that commitment. But the mayor has a very full schedule, and oftentimes initial meetings need to be taken with his chief of staff or deputy chief of staff. Certain communities like to meet in different certain ways, and we're learning how this commission wishes to operate. We're hoping to have a conversation with the co-chairs to come up with an agenda for that meeting, and we were unable to get that meeting scheduled.
But I don't think that this is good faith. I feel like none of this was clear during those initial meetings. We were summoned by the deputy chief of staff to meet within like 2 or 3 day period. And none of this was explained to us, even in the follow-up conversations. So to me, that's not a good faith investment in our commission, because clear, as you said, there were breakdowns of communication. Well, then the administration should take ownership of that and meet with us this year. Because if you're saying that the ball was dropped, and the ball was dropped on the budget, and the ball was dropped on communicating about technology for the workshop we were trying to do, and the ball just keeps being dropped by the administration. I don't believe that there's a commitment to, I mean, I'm chairing this, I shouldn't be saying all this, but I don't see it. I don't doubt Ed Gainey's personal commitment to LGBTQ anything. I think he's a great ally, but I don't think the administration is demonstrating that with regard to how they're interacting with our commission. Personally, I'm not speaking for the commission.
On August 15th of 2022, the commission received an email saying, I am messaging everyone today to determine if you would be available for an in-person conversation with Mayor Gainey, Chief of Staff Wheatley, and Deputy Chief of Staff Williams next month. The overarching intent of that meeting will be to discuss the LGBTQIA+ Commission's vision and staffing. The date and time that we are suggesting is Monday, September 12th from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. in the mayor's conference room. Please respond to this email at your convenience with an answer as to whether or not you will be able to attend. We received no response to that inquiry for a direct meeting request with the mayor, the chief of staff, and the deputy chief of staff to have these conversations in September. So I fully object to your saying that we are not committed when we attempted to set up this meeting specifically with the mayor, with the chief of staff, with the deputy chief of staff on September 12th, and we received no conversation back, no information back, not a single email back in regards to wishing to be a part of that meeting.
Well, I don't want to get into.
I'm happy to forward that email back to the commission so everybody can see it and have it on the record.
Well,
I can share my screen right now if folks wish to see it. I don't think anyone's doubting the email. I just don't appreciate the characterization of the mayor not being committed when we specifically reached out multiple times with a date with the mayor when you didn't want, when the commission wished to meet with the mayor instead of just with the chief of staff. We made accommodations specifically for that request.
Well, I'm going to bow out of this conversation because I stand by what I said, and we can just have to agree to disagree on this. But you can share what you like.
What more do you want us to do when nobody
I'm so
responds
sorry.
to
If we're going to continue
request?
with this line of conversation, I'm going to have to leave. You know, this is, I don't think, a productive anything. There is certainly a way to end this conversation, which is that if the mayor wants to meet with this commission, he will do that. And then that will end this conversation. In fact, he knows where we are once a month, every month. So he can certainly meet with us. And I'm sure he will if he intends to do that. I'm so sorry. Just, it's not productive what we're doing here.
Point made, Jam. Does anyone else want to comment on this topic before we move on? Okay, let's return to that at a different time. Attendance messages. We sent out messages to everybody with their attendance. Just for 2022, we didn't include 2021. and asked for clarifications to make sure we had all the correct information. I believe that we have heard from everyone at this point. I do want to reiterate that any attendance issues should be sent to Billy, not to the co-chairs, not to the whole group. You have to make sure that Billy receives it so that he can monitor to see if we'll be able to have quorum or not. I don't know if there's any questions about this. I think we resolved any conflicts that we had in information, so. Okay, let's move on to Secretary's report. Billy?
Okay, thank you. If you stop sharing your screen, Sue, then I could share. Thank you. No. So what I would like to do is make a motion to make a bylaws change that's on the screen now regarding quorum. If there's a second, then I'd like to speak to it.
Second.
Thank you. All right, so on the screen is a change in the definition of quorum. It would, and I've actually modified it since the one that you received from me earlier in the week and also last month. So I'll describe the two adjustments. The first one is very easy. It's in the first sentence there that says the presence of, rather than a simple majority, at least 50%. So it would change simple majority to at least 50%. So in that, for an example, if we had 16 commissioners, a majority, we would need 9 for quorum. If it's at least 50%, we would need 8. So it would lower the bar for quorum slightly when we have an even number of commissioners. The second change, which is really the one that we talked about a little bit last month in an informal conversation. There was no motion on the floor at the time. This was just being introduced so that we would have some preparation for the discussion tonight. And the second change is that rather than a simple majority or at least 50%, whatever the case may be, of the members of the commission constituting a quorum, it would exclude commission seats from the total, and the seats that would not be included are the representative of the mayor's office, a member of city council, and the representative of the Commission on Human Relations. My reasoning behind this is the view is, it really was put forward in my mind by the comment by our city council member, Bruce Kraus, who said that he viewed his seat as an advisory one that didn't require attendance at every meeting. And we, of course, talked to him about the impact on quorum with that view. So if that's the view, we can't legislate his view. We do have control over our bylaws and how we define quorum, however. And so this would adjust it. And then we had internal discussions and thought that it was more consistent if it wasn't just simply the city council members, that it was representative of these various parts of city government that have permanent seats on the commission, that they would not be included in the calculation for quorum. And it was, because of the first one. Now, so that's the idea. If you give the history of our attendance, it would make a small advantage to reaching quorum in some instances by the seats that I just mentioned, not including them, either in the total persons present or the or the total commission. And then the at least 50% would give us an advantage because, for example, if we had minus the 3, if we had 13 commissioners, well, in that example, in 13 commissioners, we would need 7 to have quorum. And if we had 12 commissioners, we would need 6. So that's what this bylaws change would do. I think we should adopt it just, because most of the time we are at quorum, but sometimes we're not. And impeding our progress, we've been holding our breath sometimes and texting and calling people, to log in. It just, I think would be helpful. I think we do a good job with the people who show up, and it's always pretty close to quorum, or most often just above. I'll pause there.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second comment from Billy. Does anyone else have feedback on this proposal?
So there would be 3 non-voting people on the commission.
No,
They would
No.
still be able to vote?
yes, this would not have any effect on the authority of
Okay.
the commissioners to their voting power.
Okay.
Nothing else changes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Billy, did I understand you correctly that they would also therefore not count towards quorum?
Correct.
If they are present.
Right. If they're present, then yeah, they're not in that calculation. Yes.
Thank you.
That's a good point, Lenny. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, ready to vote on this? This will be amending our bylaws. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
One here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep track of the abstentions for the record.
So that was just for the record, that was Jam and Maria whose seats would be affected by this, so.
Thank you.
All right, well, the motion carries. We amended our bylaws and we will, that will go into effect for December. Correct, Billy? Okay,
Yes, yes.
good. Well, it's good that we're making this procedural progress. And nomination and election committee. Do you still need the screen, Billy?
I do not.
Okay. Do you want to discuss that?
Sure, so our officer positions, the 6 officer positions, 3 co-chairs, secretary, treasurer, and outreach coordinator, are annual positions. They need to be filled each year in December for the term starting January 1st through December 31st. So at the November meeting, what we do is seat a nomination and election committee of at least 2 commissioners. I think we have the liaison as among those people on the nomination and election committee. The liaison to the mayor's office, I think, is on that committee. But we seat a nomination and election committee, and then we have nominations and the election at the December regular meeting of the commission. So in order for there to be a committee in place to do that work, we have to select them either voluntarily, however, we've done this before, to do that. What the responsibilities of the nomination election committee people will be is to be available for any commissioner who has questions about the roles or being nominated or being one of the officers, and so that they're available because they're essentially nonpartisan. They themselves are not seeking an office. So if you're seeking an office, you should not volunteer to be on the nomination and election committee. But it's so that there's a nonpartisan, neutral peer commissioner to ask questions of. Of course, you're free to ask anyone questions if you like, but that's what we need to do, is to have people ready to do. And we've seen the process before, so I won't describe that now.
All right, do we have anyone who's willing to volunteer for this committee?
I'm willing to do it again.
And we need at least 1 or 2 more people to join Lenny, because there is some counting of votes and certifying.
I'll help you, Lenny.
Denise, if you're going to be running for your office, you won't be able to do that.
Sorry, Lenny.
I appreciate the sentiment, Denise.
Is anyone who's not planning to run but will be at the December meeting willing to help Lenny, who can talk you through it quickly directly? Everybody's planning to run for all of the offices. That's what I'm getting here.
Can you remind, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
Can you remind me, do we still have the rule where people employed by the city or its boards or authorities can't run for the offices?
Billy, can we
Yeah.
discuss that?
Yeah, so what, that is regarding the co-chairs, so it's not regarding all the offices. What our bylaws now say with our recent amendment that broaden things, it says the position of co-chair shall not be held by a member employed by or representing any city of Pittsburgh departments or authorities, including offices held by elected officials.
Got you.
It does raise the question that there could legitimately be a possibility that with 6 officer positions in a pool of roughly 15 of a fully staffed commission, that there could be an inability to create a nomination and election committee due to everyone wishing to run for contested officer positions. And that seems like a tremendous issue. That it actually is a legitimate reality, that even if just each race was contested by one person, that's 12 people out of a pool of 15, and it wouldn't take much more to bump that to the realm of like we wouldn't be able to run an election.
Billy, did you
Well,
say
the standard for being on the nomination and election committee is not explicitly written into our bylaws. So we wouldn't be violating our bylaws if somebody who was running was on the nomination and election committee and assisted in running it. It is more that it's probably a good practice that a candidate for office is not part of the counting of the votes. You know, it's a better practice not to. If it was unavoidable, then we would have a choice of not having an election or allowing that to happen in some way where there wasn't a worry that about that conflict. So we have not written into our bylaws a way that would prohibit us from holding an election. The prohibitions that we have had is around the position of co-chair, that, you know, the co-chair would not be held by a member, a commissioner employed by or representing any city of Pittsburgh department or authorities, including the offices held by the elected officials. That's the restriction. It's just a completely separate thing, and it's limited to the co-chairs, not treasurer, secretary, or outreach coordinator.
Billy, did you say that the liaison, that Maria could serve on this committee?
Yes.
I don't want to speak for Maria, but Maria, would you be willing to do that in December?
Yes.
So a committee of 2, that's sufficient?
Yes. Yeah, 2 people could handle this.
Okay.
It's
also-
better that it's not one, you know.
And then if somebody else wants to join, you can let us know before the meeting, and
I'm also not planning to run. This is Jam also again. So I'm happy to help if I can.
Okay, great. So we have a committee of 3. We don't need to vote on that committee. It's volunteer.
Yeah, the co-chairs can just accept the volunteers to that committee. In the bylaws in elections, it does say the liaison to the mayor's office and their designees shall tally the votes. So that's actually, that's been Lenny, but it's with others.
Okay,
Maria, it's good if
So-
you're helping that.
Yeah, I've done that in the past with Lenny on previous elections.
so we accept you and we are going to move on to the treasurer's report around the budget. Guillermo, do you have anything to report?
Well, regarding the budget, as per the last meeting, in reading the minutes, because I was not present in the last meeting, I understand that the same amount of budget is considered from the city to the commission. And other than that, if we all are aware of the situation with staffing, Maria just provided an update on that. I understand that there have been recent meetings from the city regarding budgeting. And I think we're just basically waiting to be notified when can we move forward towards budgeting access and all of that. I don't know if Maria has anything else to add to that update, since she has been our contact with the city.
I have nothing to add at this time.
So that's the report update.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. Moving on to the outreach coordinators report. Denise? Denise, are you here? Did she step away?
Nope, I'm here.
Okay, there you go.
I'm just hitting all kinds of buttons. So we have a couple things on our plate that I'd like to get resolved. One is the social media policy. I think our final revision went over to everybody. The other, you took the agenda away, Sue. I had something else. I can't hear you.
I assume that you would want to put the policy up. That was my mistake.
I think, oh, I'm sorry. I think Billy, you had sent it around to everybody after the last revision. So I'll resend that. Oh, there it is. So I would just ask that everybody take a last look at it so that we could kind of get this resolved and finalized. The other thing that I would like to at least kind of update everybody, over the last couple of weeks, I've put together some feeds and some content into a platform to be able to start posting on our Facebook page. What I'm going to do at the end of every meeting, so November's meeting, I'm going to share with everybody a list of the posts just as they stand for the upcoming month. So by tomorrow, close of business, I'll send you a calendar with all of the posts that, everything comes up. So it's very fluid, but just the posts that are scheduled to be sent in December. And if anybody has any feedback. And lastly, and I know we've got a lot of things to cover, so I'll just go through this quickly. I put together a form where if people would like something posted, and I actually could share my screen with that post, with that form, really, just to have something where people can have, suggestions Can you see my screen? And this isn't branded or anything, but it's just a post request and, a statement that says, just because you submit this form doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get posted. With a person's name and email and the date they requested, and is it a time sensitive post? So is there something that somebody feels like it has to get posted immediately? Why is the post important? Any artwork and what that post should say. And we talked about this a little bit, that there may be, issues that, come up, and we aren't obligated to post anything, but, giving people at least an opportunity to share something that may be important that we aren't aware of. So I'll also send this link out as well, so that everybody could look at it or make suggestions, or say this is not something we want to do. I'm okay with that too. It's one less email to read, I suppose, but I think it's, as we talked, it might be, a good way to engage people. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I want to just comment that I think that you're, I'm not sure what you call it, the application to post something, this form that's on the screen right now. I think I think it's very good. It's simple, and it is an easy opportunity for people to submit things. The more difficult thing will be, filtering what should and shouldn't be posted. But I think you did a good job on this form, and that we should use it as is. Separately, I agree with you also that we should adopt the social media policy, and people have had a chance to read it. It's now down to 2 pages. I don't know if your intention is, Denise, to make a motion to adopt, but I think that we should do that, and then we can discuss it if people have anything on it that they want to ask about or potentially modify.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to make a motion to adopt that. And, this has been a couple months that we've gone back and forth, and I think we should just get a motion to adopt it and put it to rest.
That's a motion. I'll second it.
Denise, before we do that, can I make a revision if possible?
Sure.
Well, I think now that it's been seconded, you can make a revision. So we're discussing the policy now, so.
Okay, so what can I do?
Yes, you can. This is the time now. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's important. Here's what I wrote down, and it could be, we could just discuss it. When talking to us, direct any responses to the 3 co-chairs who are responsible for any public comments that represent the commission. This is what the Art Commission does. We, as a commission, can respond to like the TV media or anybody else, but as a private person, but we do not, we should allow the director of the commission to be the people who make the formal comments to the press. So we had some issues. Maria, you might know there's some litigation still happening with the Art Commission. So we have to be very clear who speaks for the commission, for our commission. And I just want to have that in there, some language in there. Does this make any sense?
Well,
Yeah.
I would like to respond to that. I think it's misplaced in this document. I think it's absolutely the right thing. Our bylaws do identify the commissioner, the co-chairs as the spokespersons for the commission, and we all should be responsible that if the media, any media outlet contacts us that we say, well, you'll need to contact one of the co-chairs. And we internally can figure out a process to do that. If we do need to make a policy on that, I think it would be separate from a social media policy. And so I just think it's misplaced.
I just, for me, like social media and just media in general are sort of the same thing. But if this is just the social media, like you're talking about like Facebook and so, then I feel we can go ahead and adopting this.
Yeah, and I would just sort of just like to follow on that conversation thread there, Richard, right? Like as somebody who is the spokeswoman for the whole city, very much anything that I put on social media is viewed directly as a statement from, and can be seen as a statement from the city of Pittsburgh, right? So I think it is important that we do have a solid policy in place in regards to an understanding of that this is your personal opinion and not the view of the commission. I don't get that luxury, unfortunately, in my role, but I do think it is important to make sure that folks are very clear, even if it's just quote tweeting a news article with your personal opinion about something, folks can then be used in media. To be clear, like that could be used in a media story saying, you know, Billy Hyman, member of the city's LGBTQ commission, said this in response to this event, right? So there are times where that will be out of our control in terms of if we say something in the public sphere can be used and would be referenced in that case, but just letting folks know that is clear. And I don't think that would put you in violation of the bylaws around the spokesperson role because it didn't involve the direct inquiry and interview with a reporter.
Because those are our personal opinions. It's not the commission's opinion.
Yeah, and I think we have that addressed in the policy with an example.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I might have just forgotten what the bylaws, what it said in the bylaws. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, regarding, you know, this social media policy, which is obviously separate from the bylaws, it does give a lot of direction for us as commissioners on, you know, what to be careful about, including if it is a topic that the commission might be taking up and you say something on social media to identify that you are not speaking on behalf of the commission, to be careful about that. And I may even add to my Facebook page, although I don't use it a lot, just a note in one of those areas that I do not speak on behalf of the LGBTQIA plus commission, because I don't in my role. So I'm going to put that on my social media page so that it's permanently there.
We put some of that into policy, some suggested language. There are lots of disclaimers, even very brief things like opinions are my own on Twitter. A lot of journalists do that. And so that's a good practice, because not only does it protect you and the commission, but any other, your employer, any community groups you're involved with, anything like that. I also think this form that we're using is a good tool to show due diligence that we're complying with the First Amendment, we're complying with any requirements that the city has of us. We're not just randomly posting things, like somebody's actually checking it and looking at it and making sure it's not absolutely perfect, but that should give us a level of protection and confidence in the posts that we're putting up.
Denise, can you throw that form up again, please?
Sure.
And where would this content be posted?
Facebook, our Facebook page. That's the only social media that we have authorized so far.
But where would they see the form?
Oh, I'm sorry, the form. That's internal, isn't it? Isn't that just for commissioners, or is that for the public to use?
This would have to be for the public.
Yes.
Yeah, I think when we talked initially, we were going to just add this add a link to this form to the Facebook page. If you have any posts or if you have any comments or suggestions, and just take people to the forum.
I think I don't know, would it be good to have a sentence that explains that no hate language and so and so and so and so would be tolerated?
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. I mean, we do have a statement here saying, just because you're filling out the form, it's not a guarantee that you'll get it. I mean, we could, maybe the spot to put that is, like as part of the heading on the Facebook page. We do not
Okay.
want, so that it's more out front and reminds everybody what the page is about.
Doesn't that get us back to the original issue we had, though, that this is supposed to be us posting information, not necessarily the public, because we wanted to avoid all the conflicts
Yeah.
of dealing with First Amendment violations. So we can't tell someone we don't just blatantly post hate speech, because we'd have to really clearly define that and make sure that we're
Yeah,
in compliance.
So this form
and-
is for us to fill out? For
I didn't know that the public was going to be able to submit events, but that's just me. I missed that. So
This is a separate conversation from the motion that's on the floor right now.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, the form's important. I think we should, I mean, it's 6:50. And we do have an executive session item we need to do, and we got to respect all our time. So why don't we?
let's
if
just
there's
vote on the
more comments
policy,
On the motion, yeah, and vote on it
Let's-
and then finish what we need to do.
and we can return to this. So we have a motion and a second on to adopt this policy. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, the motion carries.
Is that Maria?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It is, Billy. I always abstain.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Denise, do you have anything else? No? Okay.
yes, thank you, sorry.
Thank you, Denise, for all your work on this. It's been a lot of energy, and Marcus before you, he really laid the groundwork for this. So, okay, let's go back to the agenda. All right, special committee. Real quickly, I can tell you the municipal ordinance working group, we're going to need to reschedule, and we decided that we would wait to do that until the new year. Especially given all still the battle to see who's going to control the state house, and the probability that might have on having a statewide non-discrimination ordinance. Moving on to unfinished business, the anti-transgender radio ads. Is everyone familiar with what happened there with the ads? And our role in resisting them and trying to address them?
Yes.
It's a black eye on local radio that 8 stations agreed to accept those ads. It was very hard to get them taken down. I was shocked how hard it was. After the 96.1 staff threatened to go off the air and got it pulled from their station alone, not their whole network. I thought other stations would follow suit, but that never happened. And the station that never pulled the ads was 99.7 Wish, the most gentle station that you can think of, ran the ads to the bitter end. This is horrible. It's horrible. And does anyone have any comments or thoughts, response to this? Should we consider taking any further action or discuss in the future? I can tell you that the Protect Trans Kids projects will be addressing this. That's not as a commissioner, but in that regard, we're going to go to the stations and continue pursuing this to address the trauma that this inflicted on our community. So, but I don't know if any other groups are doing anything. Shantae, have you heard anyone doing anything?
As far as the radio ads,
Yes.
no.
I guess I'd wrap this up by saying, pay attention, because we don't know what's going to come onto the air next. All right, let's move on to LGBTQ senior housing. Kathy has a report for us.
I just wanted, sorry, one question about the anti-trans radio ads.
Sure. You're muted, can't hear.
Sorry, did you take that up with just the broadcast station or the managing corporation, which manages a series of stations across the US? Because they're so I just want to know if who the targeted audience there is in regards to that, because it looks like they're a subsidiary of Renda Broadcasting, which is more of a regional national corporation than just locally owned here in Pittsburgh, and wondering what that means in terms of that audience.
So what I know personally is that the Penguins went national to iHeartRadio and had a commitment for them to pool the ads. It was in multiple markets.
Mm-hmm.
The Pirates went to Odyssey, is the name of the broadcast network, for 3 or 4 of the stations. Renda, I don't know that anyone reached out to them because we didn't identify a partner. And we reached a point where, because of the 24-hour turnaround, that the ads were going to run out anyway. That's the kind of, I think, issue we should be talking about. Like, should we go to those entities that, deciders? Because there was also, there's one more company, I can't think of it off the top of my head, with the 8 stations. iHeartRadio is obviously the largest.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we, since they're not running now, we have a little bit of time, think about what type of communication the commission might send to the top level corporations that are involved in this, and craft that communication and have it ready for the next. We can discuss it in the executive committee, and then maybe we can have something prepared for the full commission before the next meeting. Because we have some time now, because they're not blaring out the radios right now.
Yeah. That sounds like a good plan. Maria, does that seem reasonable for you?
Yeah, I just think, making sure that we're, obviously the local stations, and we're seeing this with media, changing rapidly, that our local station is not just a local station anymore, and that those decisions could be made, on a broader regional scale, and not necessarily the frontline folks who are keeping the station running here in the city. Obviously, tremendously moved by the staff that was really willing to walk out and quit, and applaud their efforts and support their efforts. But if we're going to hold someone to the fire, it should be the broader corporations who are making those decisions, and doing the outreach to them on the decisions moving forward.
I agree. And I think, Maria, maybe you could help us go through these. I have all the FCC filings around the ads, and it's confusing, just to put it mildly. So maybe, because this is a lot of money. To the best of my knowledge, we're talking close to $500,000 poured into these ads. But apparently that's not, okay, we can talk about that separately, but I agree. I think this is something we should revisit. It's very important. Okay, so Kathy,
Yeah.
you have some good news for us.
Yeah, it's a quick report. Thanks to how the city rated Presbyterian Senior Care's application for additional funding to help build the retirement place for the gay community. They got a lot of funds that has gotten them closer. And Jim Pfeiffer was so excited about it. I think he was in tears. He is so committed to this project. So keep your fingers crossed. We're getting closer.
And this is a matter that we weighed in on. We wrote a recommendation to the mayor supporting this and urging the city to support this. So that's a positive outcome for
Yep.
us. And I'm very glad that this happened. Kathy, is it okay if we move on? Do you have anything else to
Sure.
add?
No, that's it.
Okay, so new business, state of the media, how it affects the LGBTQI community. I think we probably are gonna have to kick that to December, but this was in response to the Post Gazette being on strike, to the city paper having some turmoil with their publisher. WESA, WYP are now voted to unionize, and just how this affects our community, because these are outlets that tend to cover our stories. But I think that's a larger conversation, so I'm going to suggest that we postpone that till December. And does anyone object to that?
No.
Okay, great. Trans Day of Remembrance, which we should absolutely discuss. Shantae was going to update us on what is happening in Pittsburgh for this very important date.
Sorry. Hi everyone again. So two things going on for T-Door is Sisters is doing a video for several LGBT plus organizations, founders of these organizations, to speak about what Trans Awareness Week means to them, and what we can do better to protect our trans community. So that was that Ciora had reached out to me about. Also, the other thing that is going on Sunday, let me pull this up. They will be having a Trans Day of Remembrance. This is Sunday, November 20th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. At Hugh Lane Wellness North. That's on Brighton Road. Hot foods such as soup and other things. They will have heated lamps, and just a lot of festivities where we take time out to remember and honor the lives of the trans folks that we lost throughout this year. So if you are free this Sunday, which is the 20th, between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., please join us at the Hugh Lane Wellness Brighton Road. There will be speakers and so forth over there for that situation. And with that said, that's pretty much all that I had found for T-Door.
The city of Pittsburgh will be illuminating the city county building in the color of the trans pride flag on TDOR evening, and we'll be issuing a statement officially from the city honoring and recognizing the day.
Okay.
I'd like to just mention, this is a calendar year, not the TDOR year, but it's this calendar year, 33 individuals have lost their lives to violence. And I'd also like to mention that we have 2 local deaths from 2021 and 2022 that were not, or 2021 and 2020 that have not been solved. One was in Wilkinsburg and one was in Oquippa. So the strike's very close to home for us. Any other comments? All right, let's move on to World AIDS Day. Richard, can you tell us what's happening around that?
I am not aware of any specific happenings.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I really don't know if the Shepherd Wellness normally has events, and usually there's an honoring of the community at Heinz Chapel, but I have not connected to the community to really know what's going on specifically. Billy, did you have a statement written to be released for us?
Yeah, I have worked on it, but I didn't have it in good enough shape to present tonight. So
Okay.
what I will do is, and I also see Sarah's hand up, so I'll just quickly say, I'll finish it. I'll get it to all the commissioners, by Saturday. I might need Saturday morning, given what Friday looks like right now, but I'll get it to everybody on Saturday to review, to see if they want to make any comments on it. But that'll give us enough time to release it in advance of World AIDS Day. But I'm using the idea that you gave to me earlier.
Okay.
Sarah, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just wanted to say that the event that's currently being publicized, there's usually many. There's an educational component usually on the day on December 1st, but on the 4th, there's a collaborative event between AIDS Free Pittsburgh, True Tea, Trans Pride, Proud Haven, Trans Uniting. That's at Trace Brewery from 1 to 5 p.m. They'll be doing testing, awareness, and other activities for World AIDS Day. It's on Facebook. You can find it on social media.
Sarah, can you please send that information via email to everyone
Absolutely, happy to. And I'll find the other educational events as well.
when you're safely home, not?
Absolutely, happy to.
And really quickly, probably next year we could have something more organized, so we could put everything on Facebook and share that with the community. So that would be the goal.
Yeah, I think this year we've put us institutional structures in place so that we should be able to promote these events and to the community better in the future. Okay, we're going to move on real quickly.
I just
Wait,
have something
go
to add quickly. If I can have 1 or 2 pieces of information that I can translate Spanish and Portuguese to share with the Latino community, that will be awesome. And for next year, I will suggest that, I can work on that and volunteer myself and others to get the community involved more in things like that, like testing and so on. Maybe even do some workshops to educate people, because there's a lot of unknown information, and we can accommodate simultaneous translation or anything that is needed.
So you're volunteering to translate the statement into Spanish and Portuguese and
Yes.
distribute it throughout your networks and just,
Yes.
thank you. That's a very generous offer. And yeah, I think we should be very mindful of that moving forward in our attempts to do that. So I'm not trying to rush you, Guillermo. Did you have anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll make sure we get that to you. Billy, you make sure that you send that to him okay, so we have announcements, and we remember members of our community who have passed. Is this from last month? No, okay. So there's actually should be a third name on here. Nino Nevermore passed on October 16th, 2022. Jason Zubovic, who many of you may know of Miss Theatrix, passed on October 28th, 2022. And last night, Heather Vallone, who was a bisexual woman of color, died in a hospital and left behind her husband and her child. So we just maybe take a moment. Okay, I'm gonna just because I'm mindful of time to speed this along. If you know of people who in our community that we should remember their names and say their names, please send that to Billy, and we will add that to the end of each agenda.
Sue, can I have 30 seconds?
Of course.
Jason Messia Trix was a very close personal friend of mine. he and she worked on a lot of nonprofit events that I created. Most notably, Jason did drag bingos all over the county and raised over $1 million for all of these nonprofit firehouses, you know, just outside the LGBTQ community. And the acceptance of the Queens was unbelievable. So this is a way that our community reaches out and sort of changes people's attitudes and raised money for people. So he was just a beautiful person. And locally, he worked with me to raise money for Planned Parenthood. So there's a lot of power in the Queen. So
I feel it's important to mention that Nemo was in her 30s.
Mhm.
Jason was in his 40s. Heather was in her 40s. These are all very young people. And there's something about lifespans of LGBTQ people that, you know, might be worth exploring in the future. Are there any other announcements or comments? We are going to move into executive session in a minute. Well, we'll vote on that in a second. It won't take long, but we will. We do need quorum to vote on a recommendation. Please feel free to follow up on anything we discussed tonight via email, and then we will bring it up at our next meeting. So I'm going to ask for a motion that we move into executive session.
So moved.
Second. I mean, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Great. So we're going to adjourn this public portion of the meeting. IT team, take it away. Okay, I think we're back.
All right, you're the chair, Sue, so I'll make the motion.
Okay, we
Okay.
need a motion on the matter at hand regarding attendance and a recommendation to the mayor.
Yes, so I move that the LGBTQIA plus commission co-chairs author and send a letter to the mayor with a recommendation that Nakia Burton Tucker is her term as a commissioner is ended because of failure to attend meetings and failure to give notice of absences now for more than a year.
Second.
Billy, I'd like to make an amendment to your
Sure.
motion and add
ahead.
the phrase "and lack of engagement" in the commission, since we've discussed that as a factor.
Yeah, well, it's not a friendly amendment. I'm not friendly to that amendment because it's not part of our bylaws.
Okay,
Attendance.
fair
part.
enough. I withdraw the amendment then. I want to be friendly
Okay.
to the concept. All right, let's take a vote. All in favor of the amendment? I mean the motion. Sorry. All in favor of the motion? As stated by Billy Howman?
Aye.
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 And anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
You got that, Billy? That was Maria. Okay, so the motion carries and the co-chairs will follow up with this after this meeting. And with that, we come to the end of our November meeting. I hope that everyone is staying warm and we look forward to seeing you in December. Any other follow-up commentary, please send it by email. And we will continue on. Good night, everyone. Oh, we need a motion to adjourn. I'm sorry. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sounds good. All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.